Yes, so next up we have for this closing remark, Dr. Shyam Sharma, who is, uh, 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 yes, Dr. Shyam Sharma is the Associate Professor and Graduate Program Director in the program in Writing and Rhetoric at the State University of New York in Stony Brook. His scholarships and teaching focus on writing in the disciplines, professional communication, cross-cultural rhetoric, new media, and online learning, international students, and education and issues about language and language policy. In addition to publishing his works in these areas in a variety of avenues, he writes a column on higher education of the Republica, a national daily published from Kathmandu. He is also actively involved in faculty training, research, and teaching-based collaboration and institutional exchange, especially in the South Asian region, where he has supported faculty colleagues through nearly a dozen different webinar-based workshop and discussion series. He is currently supporting Tribhuvan University and private colleges in this exploration of online teaching using collaborative social constructivist approach. Today, he is going to share with us embracing the K Garne, which means what can we do, drawing lessons from effective practices of pandemic pedagogy from Nepalese material and social context. So I'd like to again request all of you to have a virtual clap. Help me welcome Dr. Shyam Sharma.
Thank you. Namaste, everyone. I lost connection since coming from the breakout room into this room, and I had to rejoin. Sorry that I wasn't there. I hope Udgamji didn't say too many bad things about me.
I would not dare to, sir.
Sorry. Thank you very much, King's College, Narottamji, Udgamji, Anujji, and everyone for this opportunity. I am humbled. And I commend the tremendous amount of work that you've done. I was saying in the breakout room that this is probably the group of people that is organizing online education conferences and practices and training and teaching and reflection more than anybody I know, including often on this side of the oceans. For the let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. All right. Can you see my screen, everybody? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for the non-Nepalese speaking colleagues, the Nepali word in the title simply means, what can one do? It is usually used for expressing frustration and resignation about a situation that where one cannot do anything. But the same expression can also be used in a less rhetorical, more literal sense of what should we do now? Ke garne? Labanus. Which expresses enthusiasm and at least a desire to do something rather than nothing. So using a bit of humor along that line, I'm going to draw some lessons from preparing myself and helping colleagues in the US and also colleagues in the public and private university systems in Nepal in the last 1.5 months, some lessons on how to make the best of this situation under the disruption of the pandemic, under the disruption of a semester we designed to teach on site with full-fledged opportunities for experience, learning, and collaboration and communication with our students. I will save at least a quarter of my time, I think it's 20 minutes, for you to share some of your takeaways from the conference so far and from the 3 slides I'll be showing you, talking about a few things, few lessons that I've learned myself, but not only from the scholarship, how I have been trying to translate the scholarship on teaching online that I've been reading for the last 10 years, but also from the practice of my own in attempting to take it online, and also trying to help colleagues in Nepalese public and private university systems. So please take notes along the lines of these 3 questions. 1, how do you define this moment as a teaching moment as a learning moment. Two, how do you design your course? Is there any sense of principle or approach or idea that you're beginning to develop for teaching effectively, or at least manageably? How are you developing any training or learning approach for yourself and for others? So please take those three questions. How are you defining this moment, designing your teaching, and developing your training? So please take notes. In about 10 minutes, when I'm done talking with 3 slides, I will be asking you to share them in a place that I'll provide you. So if possible, please take notes digitally. I'll ask you to copy and paste. The first lesson, the most important lesson that I have learned about teaching online, or rather distantly, we should be careful about that term, after the disruption, is that we cannot and should not try to do a perfect job of teaching online in this disrupted form. And I mean it, not just in the sense of the disruption of a semester that was well set, that was all set for our students to have all of that experience of a physical and social activities, emotional and cognitive engagements, mentoring and club activities, counseling and writing center support, eating and collaborating with others, and 1,000 other things that happened in the full-fledged learning systems. This doesn't even compare with a good online course designed as online. But also, with the disruption of the pandemic itself in mind, whereby I'm living in New York, where we are running out of ICU units for my own colleagues, protective gears for students who are working in the hospital before they come to my class. We are a big university hospital university. And spaces for property storing the dead bodies, as we started hearing of people who we know passing away, including the parents of our own students. So in this situation, and luckily in Nepal, you're not in that situation, and I hope to God you never get to that situation. But in this situation, to say that you're going to do effective teaching online or efficient teaching online is to try to really take advantage of making a point that you shouldn't be making at this point. So as Rebecca Barrett Fox, an Arkansas State University professor, writes in a virtual blog post from where I borrow the quotation, please do a bad job of putting your course online. In the sense that we should not only not try to do the impossible, not put cruel pressure on our students, and not let special interests exploit our generosity to our students and to the society as educators. See, after having insisted that we do a bad job, rhetorically speaking, quote unquote, Professor Barrett Fox actually offers some of the most powerful and useful practical strategies to do justice to our students and in their learning and to their learning in these difficult times. So my point is that let us first of all recognize the unusualness of this moment, the difficulties faced by our students, the uncertainty of the next day. Let us conceptualize the moment first. Let us be realistic and thoughtful first. Let us become capable of grappling with the complexity and the confusion, and let us not simplify the teaching, not underestimate the difficulties, not predict anything, not generalize, and not make unilateral decisions without evidence or feedback. So the second part of the first lesson that I'm drawing, or rather adapting from years of teaching online and half on-site, is to use the Nepalese saying, "Gada dhoera gai banaun sakidaina," or you can't wash a donkey into a cow. What we have, this pandemic pedagogy, disrupted education, is a donkey, not a cow. So we must start by not trying to wash it into a cow, and this is the key point of the second half of the first lesson. We can learn to accept a donkey, because nahunu gai bhanda hunu gada niko, which is a derivation of another Nepali proverb, nahunu mama bhanda kana mama ramro. Let's take that donkey, find out what it can do that the cow did for us. Maybe give some milk, we can make a cup of coffee. Its manure is useful. People use both genders for carrying load and plowing the field. Whatever you want to do with that metaphor, analogy. And let's learn what additional affordances the donkey may offer, like carrying a load that the cow may not, and go from there. Again, let us not call it a cow or try too hard to make one out of it. So That's what cows look like, by the way, at least here. And the second lesson that I'm drawing from this difficult time, trying to do it myself, trying to share with other colleagues, trying to train other colleagues and teach students, is that if we try and identify what teachers are missing when they lost the cow, is they're missing interaction. This is from an informal study we have done with professors in TU, that they're missing interaction the most between them, with them and their students. They're missing the opportunity to share materials and resources, and they're missing the opportunity to assess student learning or get feedback from them. So if you can identify 3 or 4 or 5 structural foundational pieces of education that has been disrupted, then you may begin to learn to design a design approach, a course design approach. So here's what we are doing in the case of Tribhuvan University. We are identifying packages of tools, or rather packages of functions, based on what teachers are interested in, right? The first package is Zoom, along with Drive and Doc and Google Survey. So Zoom allows teachers to do interaction and have class discussions. Drive allows teachers to share materials, readings, and so on, and submit their assignments. And Survey also helps to test, assess, and gather feedback. Another group package that we have created for training, another group is training, providing training for faculty across the country, is based on Facebook. Facebook allows you to prioritize back channel conversation, posting, sharing, updating, having interactions both among students and with students. Messenger can add to that by giving instant messaging functionality, and Drive seems necessary in all cases because there is a way people can, that seems to be the way people can share some resources and provide students materials to learn. The third group we have found is a group around YouTube, where you can give lectures, record your lectures, or have live streaming if it's a large, massive class like in TU. Drive on the side of it, and email for notifications. Google Slide is the final technology that serves that function of the 3 foundational pieces: interact, share, and assess. It allows you to do presentations, as well as allows students to do multimodal virtual presentations. Hangout adds an interactive dimension to it, and Calendar allows you to share events and descriptions. So that's the second lesson, that you can train by creating packages that try to recreate 3 foundational aspects of the full class that you can recreate for this current context with a better understanding. Finally, the third lesson that I'm trying to draw from the practice, from the scholarship, and my own struggling to adapt my teaching for this moment is if you poll a training approach, if you poll and learn what faculty want to learn, and then if you help them to practice by providing them a demo, and then hands-on practice, and then small group discussion, and then resources. Luckily, King's College has already done that, and we will be seeing some of those resources and some of the write-up based on the resource. And then finally, I think it is extremely important to promote some of the good inclusive practices, not only efficient practices, effective practices, but inclusive practices, evolving practices, mindful practices, inclusive practices, practices that not only cater to the students that are already capable and excited and interested, but also students who don't have access, who are disengaged, and so on. So with that, let me pause and ask you to go to tinyurl.com/donkey2020, and you will see a Google Doc, and I would like you to respond to the 3 questions that I asked in the beginning, which were, how do you define this moment? You can see the questions on Google Doc. Please go to tinyurl.com/donkey2020. How do you define this moment? Share a thought, scroll down. How do you design your course for this moment? Share a thought. How do you develop a training or learning approach for this moment? Share a thought.
For your ease, I've posted it over chat box. The link of the Google Doc that Shyam sir is talking about.
I didn't like the presentation mode because I couldn't see you at all.
Shyam sir, can you? Yeah, I was just about to request you to minimize the Zoom screen. Yeah, now it's fine.
Thank you. Please take another minute or two. And then I will ask Anuji or someone, please take away my host access. I'd like someone to unmute a few colleagues and share what you wrote.
Yep. Sir, I took back the host access. I will try to coordinate here.
Thank you. And I want to add that the next group of colleagues from King's are also trying to do something along these lines. If you'd like to build on this, please do so. I thought I was making it anonymous. It didn't. Turns out it didn't work the way I wanted. Okay, everybody. So please wrap up. Please do try to write one thing if you wanted to per question.
Everyone is anonymous here, sir, in my screen. I can
I see
you, so yeah.
I see. Okay, so who would like to go? Please raise your hand so facilitator can give you access to the unmute you, and you could share what you were writing or would like to elaborate on.
Yeah, we have a Kausal here.
So one of the things that I thought was, I'm vulnerable at this moment. My students might be vulnerable as well. how can I make sure that we can accept this vulnerability and not take it as a negative aspect, but rather build on it to support each other and still continue learning from that. So that would be a summary of all three questions for me.
I'd like someone to build on that if you would like to.
We have Nishanta Baidya, next one. So if you want to build on that, then please.
Or you can segue if you want.
Oh, yeah.
Should I go?
Nishanta. Yeah, please go ahead.
So basically, looking at oil eco situation, it looks like it's kind of like a very good stepping stones for a country like ours, Nepal. So before this, I never imagined that doing online trainings or online courses would be an option. But right now, I'm doing a lot of online trainings for my colleagues at work, and I'm actually loving it. And it is much more convenient, to be honest. Definitely, there are some cons towards not having a good interactions and all. But definitely, I believe for a country like Nepal, where everything is emerging and young minds are growing, so I think this is a very good stepping stones
Thank you.
and a lot of opportunities.
Thank you. Anuj, please save the last 2 minutes. I have something along those lines, but I'd like other colleagues to take my time. I was trying to split the time with the audience as much as possible.
Yeah, we have two more. One first is Pratik Karki. So would you like to go now?
So talking about vulnerability, so it seems that we don't know like what is next, since like impermanence is the only thing that is real. It seems that we also have to change with the times. So whatever we thought like traditionally, even like some time back, the needs of the students were, now it is not like that. So the needs has changed, the world has changed, so the future is also changing. So it seems that we also need to update ourselves. So for that, like platforms like this, engagements like this, trainings like this are helping us to understand the present reality and the future, and able to develop skills to cope with reality better.
Thank you.
We have Suman Laudari. Dr. Suman Laudari, would you like to ask your or share your comments?
Hello everyone. Sorry, just wanted to build on the idea, the comment on vulnerability. Look, I think it's not only Nepal, in countries like Australia, and Shams has already spoken, countries like USA, where, academics are, I think, as worried as their counterparts elsewhere. Speaking of my university, academics are, not all academics have that digital competencies required to teach remotely. I don't call it online teaching, because it requires a lot more planning and thinking through and maybe discussion and learning design. So teaching remotely, I mean, that they're really worried. So what they're doing is, I think they're doing a lot of talking, seeking advice from people like me, educational designer, before they release their course, testing functionalities of the platforms and tools. For example, as I think it was mentioned earlier, I mean, before you try a tool, test it, experiment with your colleagues, invite a couple to come test things to see whether things work the way you want. So I think that'll help address some of the vulnerability issues. But there are certain things that you can't actually do address. Maybe things like Zoom bombing. I was reading a news earlier, in Singapore, the schools have decided not to use Zoom, because somebody managed to get into Zoom class, in a Zoom lesson, in a geography lesson for most students were adult girls. So this man who Zoom bombed made Louis comments, and then he was, I'm like, he was completely nude. So there are certain things like that. So it's for that reason, have backup plans. Sam sir, earlier made a list of tools, package of tools and functionality. So think like which might work, which may be safer option for you. So yeah, and also seek students' opinion, ask for the opinions, what they think, what tools they may want to use, why. So I think that will give them ownership, and I think I think those are some of my those are some of the things that I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have 2 more minutes?
Your final round, or I mean, could be the second last. Deepti Acharya. So you raised your hand. So do you have some comments or questions to ask to Shyam
Yes,
sir?
I'm coming in. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. This is for the second question. Or is it for the first question?
Any question.
Okay, I would like to start by how I want to define this teaching moment. I think it's a great opportunity because for me personally, I've been really trying to bring in a lot of tools and training my staff and my teachers to bring more tools and more online teaching into the practices, learning and teaching. But for some reason, of course, there is vulnerability and people really don't want to show their competencies. They were not able to do it, but this opportunity really made them want to come and practice all the trainings that they've got. And they've been coming out, and they've actually, I've always told them that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to fail. So now at this junction of time, they've been able to come and actually prepare, and they've taken this challenge and actually doing a very good job. So I can take this as a very good opportunity actually. And if you ask me how we are designing, is because we actually have to look at the national curriculum. We are trying to integrate, of course, with the international curriculum as well. And we, as you suggested, the tools, we try to integrate everything together, and all the teachers are talking together. The HOD is actually working with the subject teachers, and there's a lot of collaboration going on. And the ones who are a little tech savvy are helping the ones who are not so. But over the last few weeks, I've seen people really emerging, and that has been a really good sign. So this is what I take it as a very good opportunity right now.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
We have a minute.
1 minute?
Yeah.
The last one, sir. I mean, in the interest of time,
Okay.
we need to just,
If we need to, extra minute, then I would talk to Shyam sir later and other colleagues later. Or
Please share.
What I think, Shyam sir and other colleagues, is that of course, our background is not like, we are not trained for online teaching. But what happened over the period of time, because of the strategic, positioning of our school within the university and our nature of student population, so we have been preparing this various form of online teaching. We have used Moodle, we have used Zoom previously, even before pandemic. So we as somebody said from the participants, that we are using this moment to make a shift within the university, making more student-centered classroom, making more student-centered lessons, rather than preparing teacher-centered, face-to-face mode of learning. Face-to-face mode of teaching has become a kind of a hiding space or easy space for continuing traditional practice. So whatever I've been doing in the last couple of weeks, or more than 2 weeks, that I'm sort of advocating for more student-centered, more participatory pedagogies, probably through online learning. It may not be completely an online kind of mode of teaching. So this is the, I think this feeling has been expressed by many participants. That's what we have been doing.
I would like to really highlight a very important point, not only because I wanted to drive this home, but also because I have learned from the many trainings, from the anxieties of the teachers. I don't want to go away feeling that King's College group, this group of us, were privileged looking at the engaged student. We were in the city. We have all the tools and bells and whistles. I'm here in New York. In spite of the disruption, I have all the things that I need. I don't want to go away feeling that we were a cloistered, privileged, small, exclusive community that drew conclusions that are not applicable beyond 60%, 70%. What do we do? So let me share my screen one more time and share one last quick thing before as you we wrap up. So I'd like to share one more important lessons about how to embrace के गर्ने in a critical but optimistic way. Let me do that, but with a new analogy, not the donkey analogy, by the way. During Second World War, they had been losing half of the bomber planes, the Allied forces, with 10% of bombing pilots losing their lives, only surviving and 90% of them losing their lives, right? So they decided to study the planes that had been downed. And so basically what they did was they studied where the planes that returned with damage had taken the hit. Nothing changed after the study. So after some time, a Hungarian statistician, whose name was Abraham Weld, I think, suggested that they improved the parts that had sustained, improved not the parts that had sustained the damage, but the parts that had not been damaged at all. And so the result, as you can imagine from the analogy, is that they significantly improved the planes that had not been returning. If you can improve the planes that are not returning, you're doing the right job. The planes that are returning are already returning. It is not that difficult to think that critically as a researcher. It is not that difficult to think about the missing student, the disengaged learner, the unexcited teacher, the unconvinced parent. So please, please mind these missing parts. Because if you do that, you're going to benefit from the donkey. Okay, sorry for the donkey again. And may not have to sit there and cry about the cow that you have lost. You may be able to practically apply के गर्ने as a practical question rather than asking or hearing a lot of students and teachers saying it in the traditional sense, a rhetorical sense of nothing can be done. Reach out the absent students, please. Measure disengagement, please. Document failure, please. And stay humble and keep evolving, please. Don't get overexcited and do a half-assed job of which you could have do a better version. त्यसपछि के गर्ने भन्ने कुरा सजिलो भएर जान्छ. गधा धोएर गाई त हुँदैन तत्कालका लागि, तर गधाबाट केही नयाँ कुरा सिकिन्छ, नयाँ फाइदा लिन सकिएला. भोलि गधा र गाई दुईटै भएको दिन यो एटिट्युडले मिसिङ स्टुडेन्टलाई हेर्न सक्ने, बुझ्न सक्ने, भिजुअलाइज गर्न सक्ने एटिट्युडले हामीलाई बेटर टिचर बनाउँछ. थ्यांक यू भेरी मच. धन्यवाद.